Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consultant Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, then we definitely love to have you come join us. That group was put together specifically for coaches, consultants, and service providers who are serious about getting up to that 6 and that 7-figure level. So if that's you, definitely come check us out. So today, I definitely want to introduce you to one of our one of the members of our community, Tanya Taylor. Welcome, Tanya.
Hey, Extus, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You almost called me Justin there.
I know.
Yes.
You saw that.
Yeah. I used to be in the U.S. Marines, and the entire time, because my last name was Justin, and we had like our name tags pinned to our chest, and it's like, did they get their name tag right? Like, because your name's Justin, your last name is Justin. Yeah. Awesome. So Tanya, tell us, what do you do?
So I have a coaching business called Your Personal Wealth Roadmap. And essentially the goal of this coaching business is to help women to demolish debt, create wealth, and leave a legacy. And what does that look like is that taking a woman from wherever she is in her journey, so whether she has bad credit or she has a lot of debt or she doesn't know how to invest, and just taking her step by step through the process to get through where I am now, which is probably, as a matter of fact, I know nothing, to, hey, you can actually build your credit, demolish your debt, and start thinking about investing and leaving some kind of financial legacy. So that's pretty much what I do. And part of the reason that have sort of brought me to doing this is there is a lot of studies out there that shows that despite the women being able to, more CEO women, more women graduating from college with advanced degrees, more women who are just heading up household or being the breadwinner of the household, there is this lack of confidence where they do not have a good financial picture. They have a fear of investing, and they don't really have a sort of planned path forward in terms of what their retirement is going to look like, or even what their plans are now in terms of having a budget or not having debt and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So financing, so debt credits and investing. Okay. So in essence, which problems do you feel like most people face? Is it the debt part? Is it the credit and the investing? What do you feel like it's the most pressing need at the moment, or is it all of them?
It's all of them. I mean, I have been in so many groups on Facebook, and it's the same questions being answered over and over again, because it's almost like if you have a pack of dominoes, and you kind of set them up, and once one start falling down, they all fall down together, right? So if you don't have good credit and you don't know how to fix it, if you have debt, then chances are that you're going to be paying very high interest rate. And because you're paying a high interest rate, you might be paying minimum. So you're constantly in this debt. So you're in this cycle. If you don't fix your credit, you can't get out of debt. And then if you can't get out of debt, you're not even thinking like, I could invest, even though you can do a combination of both, but most people think that they cannot. So they kind of stay stuck in the zone where they feel like there's nothing that they can do, because they're paying all this money, they're seeing no benefit from it. So they don't have extra money to do anything, where they could do a few simple things and fix their credit, and then suddenly create a strategy for getting out of debt and using that extra money to save. So I think that's one of the things that people just don't realize. And they probably do or don't, but consciously they probably don't realize that it's so intertwined that once they start fixing one, it sort of helps to fix the others.
Yeah. I love how you describe it as like a domino effect, right? When that first domino topples over, everything else it follows right behind it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So in essence, so what questions you said you've been? What typical questions do people ask about when it comes to maybe debt? What are the questions? Well, what are the right questions to ask?
So I can tell you what people ask or what people say, and then what are some of the things that people should be asking. So a lot of times people will just say things like, I have bad credit, I can never fix it. So how do I even start investing? Or then you will have other people who will say, I'm in so much debt, like there's no way, we just gotta live with the debt, because a lot of people get comfortable with debt and they think that that's sort of a way of life. So they'll just say, well, I have all this debt, I'll just pay the minimum until. And then in terms of investing, like that's the one that's just like, it's so foreign to people that it's almost scary. Like just to say to someone like, hey, you can invest in the stock market. Like you could actually learn to invest in the stock market in 30 days. And they'll just be like, no, I can't. Like there's no way. So last week I was talking to someone who was interested in my program, and so we're having a conversation, and she said to me, well, I really want to learn. And I said, okay, great. So these are some of the things that we'll be doing. And I started going over with her, and she said, do you really think I could do any of this? And I was like, absolutely, you can. And so just getting that mindset shift to say, you can actually do this. And so I started to break down some of the things for her and say, yeah, like for your credit, if we start with these three things, just first of all, getting a credit report and looking at it, because even that, like people don't think to ask that, like, how can I get a copy of my credit report? So that's one of the questions that they may be asking if they have bad credit, right? And then the next question might be, is there anything here that I can eliminate so that I can start increasing my credit score? Okay, so if you've gone through that and you found like these are the techniques that you can use to do that, then it's the next step is, okay, I have like 5 different credit cards. Some of them are 29%, like 29% credit card interest rate. So the question might be to ask is, how do I prioritize what I'm paying so that I can either pay off these credit cards or kind of consolidate them? Can I consolidate them and then make a lower payment, and not make a lower payment, but take all the payments that I've been making? If I consolidate it into a lower interest rate, then I can pay more so I can get it done. So like asking that kind of question. And then with investing, I think just asking how do I get started? How much do I need? Like some people think that you need a ton of money to start investing. And I was talking to my nephew recently because he's learning to invest now, and he doesn't have a job, especially now with what's happening with COVID. And I said to him, well, you know, like if you take out $5 that you're going to Starbucks with and you start investing it, then you can just get an app. And then he said to me, you know what? Because I taught him about like all the different mobile apps that they can use. And then I taught him about the brokerage accounts that they can use and sort of the pros and cons. So he said to me, I think I'm going to open a brokerage account because I might be able to do more research. Now, this is a young man, he's 18, who does not even have any money. But when I said to him, you could start investing with $5 because you can buy stocks you could start using $5 to buy stocks. Now, is it going to make you a lot of money? No, it's only $5, but what it's going to do is going to shift your mindset. So now instead of going out and buy Starbucks 3 days a week, he probably doesn't buy Starbucks and just drink some tea at home. And I'm using him as an example just because we were just having that conversation. And so his entire mindset now has shifted to the point where he's just like, oh yes, I want to open this account and I want to start investing. So I think that taking that a little broader, like for the women and some of these women in like these different groups that I would talk to, it's just having that conversation too, to say, hey, you know, like sometimes we just go out when we're at work and we just go out to lunch, and before you know it, we're spending like $10 extra on top of maybe what we spend for lunch, just on like little frivolous things. Imagine if we take that $10, even if it's $10 each week, that's $40. And if we take that and we start investing it, and I think that once you start getting into that zone, it completely shifts the way that you think. So you now start spending less a lot more often because you see that there's the potential that you can actually invest and make money. And so now you have just like a complete shift in your mindset, in your thought process. And then as I talked about the dominoes in the negative way, then you start building now. So like you're building this pyramid where you are now saying, okay, I'm investing, or okay, oh my God, I just fixed my credit. I have this extra money. What else can I do? And so that's where I want to take women, where they kind of, this overwhelm is gone and they start feeling like, oh my God, like I actually did this. And I also feel like it's important to teach them to do it instead of doing it for them, because there is that empowerment. And when you feel empowered, there's just so much more that you can do instead of just having someone do it for you.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. That's awesome. So my question now becomes so when it comes to debt, right? How do you know when is there such a thing as well, I guess how do you know when you have too much debt? How does that question how would you answer that?
So there's so many ways to answer that because it's going to depend on a person's situation, right? But
Hmm.
I think you realize you have too much debt if every month you find yourself paying a big chunk of your paycheck towards these debt. And you hear people talk about good debt and bad debt, and there are different schools of thought about what is good debt and what is bad debt. So let's set your mortgage aside. Let's
Hmm.
say you have just like a lot of credit card bills and you have these bills from impulse spending. It's not because you had an emergency where I would teach you how to develop an emergency fund. But let's say you didn't have an emergency fund, your car broke down and you needed to fix it. So you got that on your credit card. So that's like a putting quotes, a legitimate debt because that you had to do that at the time to get to work or wherever you needed to go. Versus I'm at the mall and I see a sale and it's like, oh my God, I need to buy this thing that I really don't need because when I walked into the mall, I didn't need it, but I'm going to buy it because it's on sale. And then they offered me a credit card so I could get an extra 10% off. And so I take that credit card, not realizing that I'm going to be paying 29% interest rate, or let's say it's 24% interest rate. If I don't pay that debt off in the next 30 days, that I no longer have a deal because if I'm making the minimum payment every single month when I'm paying that 24% annual percentage rate, that pocketbook, if it was a pocketbook, becomes much more expensive than the sale price that I got it for. So I think to answer that question of how do you know if you have too much debt is if the debt that you are incurring is just for things that you don't need. So you're living beyond your lifestyle. So
Hmm.
that's one thing. Two is if you just find yourself paying too much of your paycheck towards this debt, or you're just paying the minimum, that's another thing. And so you would start evaluating, why am I incurring all of these things on my credit card? And then what do I need to do to stop this? I like to call it a leakage because if you go out quite often, like I go out with my girlfriend tonight, another set tomorrow night, and then I go here and I go there and I spend all of this money, or I put my vacation on my credit card. So I call those leakages because those are things that you can contain, as opposed to where you may have a legitimate emergency where you have not created an emergency fund, so you needed to spend the money, or you created an emergency fund but it was exhausted and so you needed to spend that extra money maybe on a credit card or something of that
Hmm.
nature.
Yeah, awesome. Now, would you say most debt is based on impulse spending?
Absolutely. Barring your medical bill, which you have no control over, a lot of debt is just bad money management, not
Hmm.
having a budget. And again, just impulse spending, keeping up with the Joneses, wanting the fanciest of this when your paycheck does not allow you to have that. So one of my girlfriends used to say she has champagne taste with beer money. So so I guess that's the way that I would kind of phrase it too. Is just like you want to live this lifestyle, but you only have this much money.
Hmm. Okay, okay, awesome. So how do you help someone, let's say someone comes to you and they say, Tanya, I have a lot of debt, I have all these different things. What's your process? How do you help them? How do you help someone in that situation?
Yeah, so if someone is coming to me with like overwhelm, you know what, I just don't even know what to do. I actually have a 6-step process that I go through, and each step doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be like, okay, you have to go this step, then this step, then this step, but it's just more like a guide post and then having our milestones. So I call it the grow it method. And you first get organized, get all your documents together, make sure that you have everything together. And then I call it rock your budget and your spending plan. So that's when you're creating a budget so that you know exactly what you're spending. And I said a spending plan because literally you are going to be itemizing every dollar that you spend to see where you are and what you're spending on. And I am big on, like, I love vacation. Like, I'm a big traveler. I've been to over 43 countries in 26 states. That's just my thing. So when I create my budget, I will cut everything else, but I will not cut my vacation. And I love going to the spa, so I will not cut my spa time. So for someone who's coming to me as well, I'm going to say, what is your non-negotiable? Like, no matter what's going on, I don't want to touch this, because if I touch this, I'm not going to live by this budget because I'm just not going to be happy. So I actually will go through that process with them again, just so that they are very comfortable with the budget that they are now creating, that they feel like they can live with. And then the next step is like invest and save. And as I said, it doesn't have to be in order. So you're now starting to think about, okay, if I've sort of gotten organized, I've looked at my credit and figure out what I need to fix. Let's think about how much you can start putting away, because a lot of people don't have anything put away.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that they were talking about during this COVID crisis, that like most Americans don't even have $400 in emergency spending. So after we're talking about investing and saving, we're also talking about putting money in an emergency fund so that you have that, so that if you have the car breakdown, you have somewhere to go instead of going to your credit card. And then now the last one, which is to think big picture. And when you're thinking big picture is, okay, for my retirement, how much do I really want and how do I get there? What kind of insurance do I have? How much do I really need? Do I have long-term care? Do I have disability insurance? How do I manage my risk? So if I'm investing in all of these stuff, how am I managing my risk? So it's broad and just strategizing. So that's sort of like the process that we will go through to get you from, I don't know what I'm doing, to, hey, we have a plan. And so that plan is your roadmap, and that's what you're going to follow. And that's what we're going to work through to make sure that you're getting to where you need to. And then we'll set milestones. Hey, this is where we are. This is where we said we would be. Where are you? Check in, course correct if we need to, and continue to move on.
Yeah, awesome. And I love the process you mentioned about having milestones, right? Because most individuals, when they get to doing something or they just think, what's the end result? And then they just try to get there. And then they get lost along the way and they have no idea where they are in the process, versus having actual milestones to say, hey, here's this checkpoint, that checkpoint.
Correct.
But you could feel like you're making progress, and the progress you're making, it's moving directly towards that income goal, right?
Yeah, and even if, because we all fall off at some point in time. So it's not even like you needed to stick to this, but it's more, okay, let's check in. Okay, we made it, awesome. We didn't make it. Why didn't we make it? Let's look, were we too aggressive, or was there something that we missed? Let's figure out what we missed so that we can fix it. And so that's the whole idea. It's really just partnering and just really getting to where the ultimate goal is to get you to that place where you really feel comfortable and confident in what you want to achieve.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to investing, would you say there's is it, because I know most individuals, when it does come to things like that, when they save and invest in all these different things, it's like, well, I'm not making enough to begin investing yet. When I start making this much, that's when I'll get into whether it's investing in the savings. So when it comes to investing, what is your philosophy on that? Do you believe that it's possible to not be making enough to invest, or do you be like, hey, it doesn't matter where you are, whether it's $1, $2, $5, you should probably get started?
I think whether it's $1, $2, $5, you should get started. My children, who are 13 and 15, they're investing, they get allowance. So I think it's developing that habit. And I think if you keep waiting, it's just only going to make it worse. Time doesn't wait on anyone, and time value of money is really critical, because there's this thing called compound interest, which Einstein says is like the 8th wonder of the world. So the earlier you start investing, the more you can compound your gains so that it will continue to grow. And as I gave the example of my nephew, who I just talked to him about $5 and he was doing it. My daughters, they're probably $5, $10 here and there on the say get gifts. It's the start. So now suddenly it almost becomes like it becomes a habit. So you start investing in it. It really doesn't matter. Similarly, it doesn't matter how much you make. A lot of time people also think that I need to make X dollars in order to do this, but you don't. I can tell you, like, I came to this country, I listened to your story and we have some parallels, right? I came to this country at 16. I left my parents. I came here by myself. My parents barely scraped together the money to buy a plane ticket for me. And I remember, I don't even think, I came with $100, but I think that $100 was promised for when I get here, I was going to get it from the family that was hosting me. And I was making $75 a week. And I used that $75 and I sent back money from my family because they were very poor. And I saved to go to school. And I put myself, and then I went from $75 to making $140. And I put myself through junior college making $147 per week. So, and then I became a babysitter because I couldn't get a job when I graduated junior college. So I became a babysitter in someone's house, and I was making $200 a week. And I took that $200 and I kind of went through the same process. I saved, and I sent money for my family in Jamaica, and I saved the rest. By the time I was 25, I had bought my home. And I hadn't even finished, and I was saving for college, because then I went back to get my 4-year degree. I am a CPA, so I went and I got my accounting degrees, became a CPA. But I never got a student loan. It was from making the $200 per week that I saved up. And after 2 years, I had gotten a job where I was making like maybe 4 times what I was making. So I was making about $800 a week. Again, I lived like I was making the $200 a week, and I just kept saving. So, but it started off from $75 to $140. I was able to spend $140 to pay my way through school. So I'm saying that to say, like, you don't have to have a ton of money. And even right now, you don't have to have a ton of money to get started. Things are probably more expensive now, but it was expensive back then to me as well. So it's just a matter of having that mindset that, you know what, I want to do this. I want to do something different. For me, my driving force was, I come from extreme poverty. I do not want to live in that kind of poverty. So whatever I need to do to elevate myself from there was what I was going to do. And so I just lived a certain lifestyle. I never tried to keep up with my friends. If they want to go eat, I got to eat at home because I got to save to go to college. And so that's sort of how I approached it. And that's how I've approached for my entire life. But that doesn't mean also that I don't enjoy things. Like I said to you, I love to travel, and I travel extensively. And some of my vacation are real budget vacation, and some of them are like really nice vacation. So it's just like finding that balance, bucketing stuff. I'm very deliberate about, I guess, and disciplined, you could say, just about planning and sort of budgeting and staying within that budget. And then if we all fall off. If I fall off that budget, figuring out how to course correct. But I've always believed that you should start saving. So I subscribe to the philosophy of pay yourself first. I've been doing that for as long as I can remember. And I've never stopped doing that, no matter what was going on in my life. Because if you put that money away, then you know that you're going to always have it. And it didn't matter if I was making $75 or what I make now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Love it. Okay. So we're running short on time here, but if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to be able to reach out?
Sure. So I have several social media, and I also have my website. So I have a YouTube channel that's called Grow Your Wealth TV. And on Instagram, you can reach me at Your Personal Wealth. On Facebook, you can find me at Your Personal Wealth Roadmap. And I also have a website with a similar name, personalwealthroadmap.com. So that's how people can find me if they would like to learn more about me and about what I do and the services that I offer.
Yeah, awesome. Do you have any like freebies or anything you give away?
I do. I have 2 freebies. The first one is that same roadmap that I talked about, the Grow It, the 6 steps. So they can actually go to my website and download it. And it really just gives them information just about shifting their mindset, those 6 steps that I talked about in more detail. It has some detail on what they need to do, and just like identifying, again, the non-negotiable in their budget, like, and then identifying debt and what they need to do. And then the second giveaway that I have is 5 steps to investing in the stock market. And that is literally what it says. It's 5 steps to investing in the stock market. So it gives them, I've been a stock market investor for over 20 years. And so I've done really well in the stock market. So it just gives them literally the process that I use, my blueprint that I use to invest in the stock market to generate the gains that I have. And that's what they would find there, as well as the different apps that they can use to start investing, as well as the brokerage account that they would want to open. Just some examples of what they would be able to use.
Awesome. That's some pretty generous stuff back here. Well, hey, thank you again. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. And thank you so much for sharing all these resources with the community. And guys, if you're watching this either on the live or on the replay, definitely I'll have all the links right below the video. So click through and get connected to Tanya. Well, Tanya, hey, again, thank you so much. Do you have any final thoughts before we end here?
I guess I would just, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. And I wanted to say to anyone that's listening that it doesn't matter where you are on this journey, just begin. And now is the time to begin. And you'll realize a year or 5 years from now, when you look back, what great steps that you've made, just having that opportunity to begin.
Yeah, love it. There you go, guys. Lesson, big takeaway here. I know life, right, was one of the things where you can't really see the future looking forward to whatever, but when you're able to look back and then you really connect the dots to see how, so that's how I ended up here. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, hey, again, thank you, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, thank you, Extus.
You're
We got
welcome.
it this time.
No worries.
Bye.